Another great episode ahead with guest Jeff Davies, a 31-year veteran of Roseville Area High School and middle school. Also a coach of many sports there and teaches in the woodworking and construction technology, really everything trades and industry focused.
Yes, our 2019 Teacher of the Year finalist walks us through some cool things about the different curriculum they offer there, what kind of opportunities that creates for the students who go through those paths. He talks a little bit about the ways that the industry has changed around us and some of the ways that the students haven't. It's great.
Enjoy the episode.
You know, I'll say at the beginning of a class, who knows what they want to do? Out of a class of 28, like 3 kids are like this. And I have to say, those of you that didn't raise your hand, you're the normal ones. I'll sit back when things are hitting on all cylinders and I'll look at the shop and it's a magical place.
I think the message is very clear. There are other opportunities out there.
You nailed your bill of materials. Everything is spot on. Have you thought about maybe going into construction management?
And today I look at kind of where they are as a general comment is I like structure.
There's a generation coming that wants to work. Oh, you mean this is a skill I could make a living at? Because a lot of them haven't thought about that.
Welcome to the Beyond the Breaker podcast.
Okay, so we start off with our introduction to woodworking class. It's one of the most popular electives at Roseville High School. And in that
Because of the teacher?
I think it's subject area.
I figured it would be that.
So in that class, we start off with just some introduction to woodworking. And when kids come in, I've been teaching for 31 years, and it always kind of blows my mind how much they don't know. Because I look at my experience, and I'm out in the garage with my dad or making a tree house, and I just don't think that goes on as much as it used to. And I think screens are a big part of that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for a lot of those kids, we're just really starting at absolute ground zero, how to put a drill bit in, what's a Phillips head screw. And so that class is really the foundation for all of our trades and woodworking classes. You have to take that. It's a prereq. We do 4 intro projects. We do a sign, a pen, a plate, and a charcuterie board.
That's a fancy word.
I have 3 of those still.
Nice.
I don't know if we got to do the charcuterie. No, I made a pizza board.
Pizza board, yeah. That's an extra project now. So.
Nice.
And so once they do that class, then Woods 2 would be the next one, and that's the one where we make the cabinet.
Yep.
Maybe have one of those
I still got that.
I've got one in every room in my house. Yeah. We make a cabinet and we really kind of explore cabinetry. So that's where we kind of get into the conversation of this can be a career. If you build cabinets and install them in people's kitchens, they cost a lot of money. And then I'll ask the students, any of your parents ever remodel the kitchen? And there's always a couple hands that go up. Yeah. And I go, did you hear them talking about their cabinets? And they're all like, they are really expensive. So they get it. And it's good for the class to kind of hear that, like, oh, you mean this is a skill I could make a living at? Because a lot of them haven't thought about that.
And what kind of age are you getting most of those kids doing the first or second class? Are they freshmen, sophomores?
Usually 9th and 10th graders in the first 2 classes.
Okay.
That cabinet, the nightstand, takes us the entire trimester to build. It's not an easy project. Kids like it. I love teaching it. It's cabinetry. And then after that class, then you would be able to take the advanced woods. So that's woods 3, 4, 5. Some kids take 6, 7, 8.
No kidding. You have like enough exploration and depth in sort of content to just like keep engaging them.
So the cool thing about the advanced class is the student gets to pick whatever they want to make. So it's basically open shop time.
Sure.
And if you've seen our shops at Roseville, like I try to explain to them, you'll never be in a shop like this again the rest of your life. We have so many tools and equipment. Nobody has a time saver in their garage.
Yeah.
At least, there might be a few people that do, but not too many.
No.
So, I just try to communicate to them, take advantage of this resource. And in the advanced woods classes, that's where the training wheels kind of come off. I'm more of a facilitator of the equipment and keeping things up and running so the students can just solve their own problems and use all the stuff and have it functioning. So we have had some just really awesome stuff. I mean, if it's made of wood, my advanced classes have tried to make it.
It's really neat.
Canoes, paddle boards, canoe paddles. We have a lot of lathes, so we do a lot of turning on the lathes. All sorts of different cabinets.
Yeah.
I've got a lumber mill. We have a shop yard, so we do a lot of milling. I have a relationship set up with Tree Trust. They are a nonprofit, and they got the contract to remove all of the ash borer infected trees in Roseville. And those guys are awesome. They set aside arborist selected ash trees that were perfect to mill, and they bring them to Roseville for us, unload them with their clam truck, and put them right where we want them. And we're able to turn those logs into finished furniture. We can do the whole process from, humongous log to, taking it all the way up and making a cabinet out of it. That's really what I enjoy, when you get to see it, the whole process, and the light really comes on for the students. It's pretty cool.
Would you say, I think you're falling under trades and industry is kind of what it's going to fall under at Roseville. How is that benefiting, or in recent years, benefiting students to join that class saying, okay, this is actually an option for me as a career, as opposed to it used to be called an elective, right?
Yeah.
And people looked at it as like, oh, it's something where I can work with my hands, and I have my social studies, my math class, and that's really what I need to focus on, versus like, no, it's not an elective. This is a legitimate skill builder for a career path in the future. Is that helping changing that narrative?
Without a doubt. And I've seen a huge change, even in like the last 3 or 4 years. So many high schools are college prep, which is admirable, to try and get all students at a college level reading, math, writing. But not everybody goes to college, right? So
It's not a great fit for so many people.
Totally
agree.
It's. I lost my train of thought there.
Well, maybe we want to go talk a little bit more about that, like the college versus even a trade school, or the persona of somebody who's going there saying like, nope, I'm college prep. That's what I'm in. This is what I need to do. If you want to talk a little bit about like how you educate students on what are these other career paths. Hey, mate, you're really good at this. While you think that having a degree and getting a job in an office is going to make you the most money, might not be true.
Right.
You can install cabinets and make a ton of money.
And then how do you also like connect with that, I'm going to say kid, on an appropriate level where it's like, hey man, it's not just about the money. If you can love what you do, or at least like find personal satisfaction in it, like that's a factor. So how do you make that connection and help present some really cool opportunities for the future?
So to go back to the first thing we were talking about, for so many years, it felt like the electives were secondary options, like you alluded to.
Yeah.
And now I think more than ever, it's a primary option. Yeah. And I think finally school leaders are seeing it as that. I can speak for the leadership at Roseville. Yeah. They have been very proactive about giving all students opportunities, not just the college-bound kids. So that's been really good to work with leadership that has, that wants everyone to be successful. For me, when I start a conversation with a student, they sign up for the class, right? So they have some passion. And we have that conversation, like you have a job to pay for your passions when you're away from your job, or you have a job that is your passion. And that's kind of mind-blowing for them to hear. That they usually like haven't even heard that perspective or thought about that narrative at all. And then I ask them, which one do you want to do? And they don't usually have an answer. They just, I don't know. Yeah. So that's kind of the first thought. What beyond that, I would say just conversations. I try to ask them what they're thinking. it's nice because when they come into the classroom, they're fairly passionate about it and they want to just get to work. So I can kind of see their strengths, and then we have a conversation depending on maybe what that individual's strength is. If they have a certain idea in mind, I usually say, call the JTC. If you want information about being an electrician, what's the JTC? Let's go ahead and give them a call because they can put you in the right direction. So that's for a student that answers me, I want to be an electrician.
Yeah.
But most of them
They got
don't.
a clear path.
Yeah, most of them don't. And I'll say at the beginning of a class, could I see a show of hands? Who knows what they want to do? Out of a class of 28, like 3 kids are like this. And I have to say, those of you that didn't raise your hand, you're the normal ones. Hardly anybody knows at the age of 17. I'm 53. I still don't know what I want to do for a living.
Let us know when you figure it out.
The search
We
continues.
do. We maybe need a new table. Well, this one's really nice.
This is a very nice table, but we could get you a live edge slab on this thing if you
Oh,
want it.
okay.
For real cheap, I know.
Yeah, challenge accepted. And Jeff, when you think about connecting with those kids, asking that question, you also talked about some of those kids might not have had any experience with using tools or building anything. What does that connection maybe look like for the student who hasn't been around that sort of environment before?
They're a lot of them are fascinated. They can't wait to get in there and get their hands on stuff.
Yeah.
They're worried about their safety. They hear that table saw go on and they see that blade whirring, and I tell them, you're going to be using this, and some of them just, kind of turn white.
Yeah, it's got to be a bit shocking.
But by the end of the trimester, they're using it. So just getting them the opportunity to get their hands on something instead of a screen. Let's make some sawdust. Who cares if you make some mistakes? That's what woodworking is. Really, if you ask me, it's you learn how to fix things that you mess up.
A bunch of mistakes polished up, kind of nice.
That's it. Yeah. So, and when the kids get to that level where they realize this is just problem solving, that's all I'm doing is problem solving, and then it goes from there. I do want to go back to I think the most important thing. It isn't the curriculum. It's not what they might be able to prove on a test. I think number one for me as a teacher is to build a relationship so that we can have those conversations. It's like, are you going to buy a car from a salesman that you don't like?
Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I kind of carry that approach in the classroom with how I teach. It's like, if I got a bunch of students that don't like how I roll or how I conduct my class or how I talk to them, they're going to be pretty resistant to learning. They're not going to take the class. Numbers are going to go down. We won't run the class anymore. So I think it really does start with the relationship. And, that when you think about people that come on the job site for you, you can teach them the skill, right?
Yeah.
But the soft skill, the hard skill, you can teach them. The soft skill, what we call employability skills, punctuality, communication.
Now you're talking my language, brother.
Yeah.
Show up on time.
Yeah, that's job one.
Yeah.
Like in my trades class, it's like you got to be here on time every day. If you're late, you're getting docked.
Yeah.
Like this is not going to fly in here.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it works in the real world. And I think, public education, for all the good that it does, there's a disconnect between the classroom and what happens in the real world. And in a shop class, they get that real world experience.
It's awesome to hear, and I think this is the credit to you, just as the person you are. And we mentioned in the intro the Teacher of the Year finalist at one point.
Thank you. Blind squirrels find acorns.
Hey, well, somebody had to write your name down and submit it.
Not sure how that one happened, but that was quite an experience.
But I think it's awesome to hear that your approach is kind of, I'm the teacher that needs to show them. This is what you need to do. You're supposed to have an end product, and you'll get a grade on it. Really, what's most important is I'm kind of your counselor, your advisor.
Absolutely.
I'm looking to help you out on that next step if this is something you like. And if it's not, let me get you to a point where this is a passion of yours after your actual job.
Yeah.
because you can also have that, and plenty of people do. But that's a credit to you as a person, and I think I would
Thank you.
imagine
Appreciate that.
a lot of people who are in the position that you are in with high school students or middle school students or whatever it is, that they want to push them to be, push them towards a career choice that they're going to enjoy.
Yeah, for sure.
Or find some sort of passion out of.
Without a doubt. I mean, nobody wants to go to work every day and do something they hate.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do.
Oof.
A lot of people do.
It's a tough way to go.
Yeah.
Jeff, you talked about how fortunate you are to work within a school system that really actively supports this kind of education. Yeah. Andrew, you went to that school, so like you got to experience that firsthand. And there have to be some listeners who are coming up in different school environments or are thinking about raising kids in rural places, urban places. What kinds of things would you encourage them to advocate for? If I'm going to be a parent and I'm going to go to the PTO meeting or however those decisions get made, I don't know.
School board meeting.
Sure, let's call it a school board meeting. But like to go there and be an activist and advocate, hey, I want my kids to experience this. What kinds of things would you encourage them to ask for? And maybe we start out with like, what are some basics? And if they already have a program, what are some things that they could do to really enhance that and make it even better to give those kids more career options, more breadth?
Yeah, so, I mean, setting up a shop is, you got to have the space. And then once you have the space, you got to fill it with stuff that works and is safe. So it's a lot different than teaching math, where the curriculum is, it's not a table saw or a power miter box.
To oversimplify, it's a desk and a book and a whiteboard.
Yeah,
It's in a book.
So that parent voice to district leadership is so important because that's who district leaders listen to. And I think just as something as simple as sending an email to a principal, the principal can pass that concern along. Communicating rather than sitting on that and keeping it to yourself. Go ahead and tell somebody. And that's really the kind of the winds of change, how change can happen in public schools. It's from the parents advocating. And I think it's very appropriate. I'm not going to mention any schools by name, but I'll just say some of the conference schools that are in the same conference that Roseville is in.
Sure.
I mean, you go to their football stadiums, it looks like you're on a college campus.
Yeah.
They've invested millions of dollars in their football stadium. Roseville has invested millions of dollars in their shops. We have all new shops. They're state-of-the-art, world-class facilities. So I think, as a parent, if you really wanted that for your child, which I would absolutely want for my child, I would want to try and see some different schools that would have that to offer.
Sure.
Not to put more work on your plate, are there any after-school programs offered by schools like Roseville where, hey, I'm a student at a school in the East Metro and I live close to Roseville, but I don't go there. But I'm very interested in this. My school doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Do I have access to that, or is that?
We don't have that currently. Short of open enrolling
Sure. Okay.
in Roseville, that'd be the only way to get in the shops.
I could think too of, I grew up on the west side of the Twin Cities, and we had different community education programs where it would give community members, whether they were post-high school age or maybe just starting to explore a hobby, they could have access to some of that. But I would imagine that too starts with that sort of advocacy.
Yeah.
As a taxpayer, as a community member.
Yeah, so there's some interesting wrinkles with community ed in a shop space.
Yeah.
For me, all of our teachers at the high school that are in our department, trades and industry, have a CTE license. So
what the heck is that?
That's career and technical education. And the CTE licensure is amazing when you have it because it qualifies you for Perkins funding. And this is really cool. So that's federal money, and because I have my CTE license in construction, Roseville area schools recoups, I think it's 35% of my salary from the federal government.
Interesting.
So they're getting me at a discount because I'm CTE licensed.
Sure.
So that's really a cool thing. And I go through a grant writing process every year. As an example, this year I wrote a grant for OSHA 10 training for all my trade students, so they'll get their certificate. I wrote a grant to go to a tiny home training seminar in California. Really keeping my fingers crossed on that one.
We'll see how it pans out.
Go Perkins.
Yeah.
But that would be a goal, is to build a tiny house. And then, we do it all in the Roseville shop, and I have the shop yard, and then we're bringing in all the trades.
Yeah.
Right. And we've got actual tradesmen in working with the students.
Yeah.
That gives me goosebumps thinking about doing something like that.
But I love that opportunity that you're putting on the table right now. I had no idea programs like that existed, that there was federal subsidies or grants or dollars available. And gosh, wouldn't it be great to go advocate for that, even if I lived in a community that didn't have the budget for $1 million shop, build out.
So your question earlier about what, a parent could advocate, like how might that look if you didn't have the space? Get me a room. Let's start with a room, and let's just start building on it. Every year it's going to get a little bit better, and there's ways to get funding. Just today, I got an email from the COO of Hunt Electric, and he had touched base with the sales rep for Milwaukee Tool, and
Nice.
I've got 10 sets of electrician tools coming. So
Cool.
just like that.
Yeah.
So support
Tapping
from
into
the
that
community.
network.
Yeah, and this guy that I work with that got me these tools, he doesn't mess around. He gets stuff done, and I love that. So,
And that's fantastic.
I've got we have multiple community partners. Hunt has been great. McGuff has been great. There's a few more that we work with.
Yeah.
But to have that real world connection and bring that in, it's invaluable. Like I'm insulated in my classroom, and how would I know what's going on here if I'm not out here with you guys? So this is a really big deal.
How about from that standpoint, right? You have contractors coming in and talking about some of the options. What's your approach with students, or what is available to students who, they really like the idea of the construction industry, maybe are really talented in something else, whether that's data analytics or management. They're super organized. How do you approach those conversations, or what options are available for people who want to go work for a contractor in the office, maybe not so much in the field?
Just kind of once they, like, if a student shows that they're interested in that, then I can kind of funnel them in that direction. And a lot of our resources that we would explore with are online.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of really good websites that I use. And beyond that, then it's like, okay, if you want to do construction management, let's look and see where you can go do that at. And then let's make sure we get applied to those schools and get accepted into those schools.
Yeah.
And then you have that as an option, just an option, because how many 18-year-olds really know?
Yeah.
I wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the
sure.
problem is, right, if they're going to look up, they'll Google, what's a degree in construction management? The first one that's going to pop up is the online one in the state of Arizona, because they paid for the funding for it to be the first one that pops up. And they might not scroll all the way down to, Mankato State.
Yeah.
Or the schools that a lot of their friends are going to for whatever degrees they are that are not construction related. They may not even think those schools are available. So,
Andrew, I want to ask you a question on that, because you went through that program. The school I went to did not have, it was a small, and I'm going to call it pretty basic. Not trying to throw shade, but it just wasn't complex. And I wasn't a student that they were targeting. You got to do this really cool class, this curriculum. I don't know how many woodworking classes you
4. Nailed it.
Nailed
Every
it.
year.
Extra credit.
Do you think that helped steer you into this industry? And, these days your role is very much not hands-on building things and widgets. So, do you think that helped you? And does it give you a connection to folks on our teams who are doing that stuff?
Yeah, I would say my experience with it, and again, took it 4 years for the teacher, not for the class.
He can't give you a grade. You don't have to keep saying that stuff.
So what I would say is, like, when you walk into, for this being very specific, Jeff's classroom, it is like a job site. You are all working on something different, but you're using the same equipment. It's just an extremely fun environment where you realize I have my 15-minute window to make this cut, and then somebody else is on that machine, right? And it is an operation when you walk in there. Everybody's like, I'm doing this. It's super collaborative. For me, it was that experience of, it's great to learn how to do this stuff. I had a little bit of background knowledge going in, but not in the sense of, cutting a sheet of plywood. Just never done that, right? The scare of the safety of it. Hadn't really seen it firsthand in person. And I would say, like, to me, that was awesome. Something I would like to be in this environment. This is where it's the team building. There's an end goal in mind. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that needs to get done administratively. That's what I enjoy about it now. But you talk about Milwaukee Tool being involved. It is so many hands in that bucket to make a shop class run at the level it does at Roseville, or even just a small classroom. A lot of people need to get involved.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, it wasn't going to sit in a desk and listen to somebody talk. It was like, hey, Jeff's going to talk for 5 minutes, then you're on your own. And if you need help, you got a guy that's going to teach you the right thing.
Yeah, cool.
But he's also going to advise you to do the right thing too. So,
and I think you touched on like there is part of that planning. Like we do a bill of materials, we do a project selection, we go through a process, then we prepare a bill of materials based on the cost of the goods. We do a timeline where they're predicting what milestones they're going to reach and when they're going to reach them. So if they don't get to that point, it's like, I'm behind, I need to come in after school. So there is some good planning on that. For the construction management, we really don't do a lot curriculum-wise for that. That's more of a conversation. Like if I would observe a student, hey, you're really good at look at your plan. It's awesome. You nailed your bill of materials. Everything is spot on. Have you thought about maybe going into construction management? And then I'll see the student who's like, whoa, I can't read a word on this page.
Yeah.
Let's get you hammering some nails. You know what I'm saying?
and part of that, I think what's great for students is you get to take ownership in your. That's a good one.
Thank you, Jeff. I really like that. Thank you.
You get to take ownership in what you're doing from start to finish, and whether it's a career that you go into that is construction related or not. If you just want to own your own company, you kind of learn those skills in this class because
training for that.
You have to build materials. You have to somewhat manage a budget,
and you're working with all the other people in the class.
Yep.
And you mentioned collaboration.
Yep.
Like sometimes, I'll sit back when things are hitting on all cylinders, and I'll look at the shop, and it's a magical place.
It's
like
awesome.
Everybody's on task. I'm not having to sit over your shoulder and get in your ear. What are you doing? Like it's just they're just going, and it's a lot of fun.
And I think if there's a competitive edge to students too, hey, you and I are building the same thing. We're going to collaborate, but at the end of the day, one of them is going to look better than the other.
Yeah, we talk about
and
craftsmanship.
it's going to be mine.
My definition of craftsmanship is us three sitting at this table. There's only one craftsman who makes the better looking project out of our three projects. There's your craftsman. Yeah. Not everybody can be craftsmen.
Yeah, they're apprentices.
Some of them, when I say that, their eyes light up, and then they look at the people sitting at their table like, "Oh, it's on."
I appreciate that. Yeah. So, we've talked a little bit about the different kinds of careers, the different paths that students can take, and early in the conversation, you talked about, it's changed. And you've seen some change. And I think you said 31 years so far in your career doing this kind of thing. What are high-level details, whatever you want, but what are some of the things that you've observed change? Whether that was school policy, the quote-unquote importance of getting a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
You said screens showing up. So what kind of things have you observed change over time?
Yeah.
Because I think you've been doing this longer than... Andrew, you've been alive.
Yeah.
Well, that's humbling.
Got me by a year.
Let's see here. Could I get the question one more time?
Yeah, at a very basic run at it, what have you observed change over time in your career, the way the students are showing up?
Yeah, so a lot has changed, but a lot hasn't. Like kids, I have faith in the next generation to fix some of the things that my generation has messed up. There are some.
You got to say more about that.
There are some extremely motivated, talented, inspiring kids, just like there was 30 years ago when I started. So that hasn't changed. Sometimes I hear, kids these days, right?
Yeah.
I even catch myself saying it. But I'm telling you, from what I see, I don't think we have much. We don't have to worry about that. There's going to be there's a generation coming that wants to work. One of the biggest changes, COVID was crazy.
Oh.
Things changed after COVID.
Okay. In what way?
I think there was so much hardship in COVID. Things really softened up for a few years in public education. And maybe because of that, we kind of lost the reins a little bit. I see that coming back now. And I think that was a product of the harshness of what we were doing for COVID.
I just want to make sure I understand it. Are you saying like we lowered some standards or we didn't hold ourselves, our students are
I don't know that we did. We lowered, we just were way more accommodating. Mm-hmm. I think COVID, helped us be a little bit more compassionate to individual situations. It's like, well, I haven't seen so-and-so on the Zoom class in 3 weeks. COVID made you realize, well, what's going on? Mm-hmm. There's something there. Mm-hmm. So I think it changed, and things are kind of normalizing a little bit more as far as expectations and consequences. But it did kind of get put on hold there.
So maybe the pendulum kind of swung that one direction, lower consequence, a little bit more compassionate and accommodating.
Yeah.
And now maybe we're swinging back toward a little bit more rigid standard or. Yeah.
I've always kind of said the wheels of education turn slow. Compared to how things move around here, it's at a different speed. So it always takes education to kind of catch up a little bit. And now I think we are getting caught up from that. But it takes a period of years.
The value of those real world experiences, though, right? Like if you're going to build a tiny house, you're going to have contractors in there. They don't have that much time to give. So the time that they do give to volunteer is valuable. And they're probably sitting there, hey, I'm here for 2 hours. We're going to get this done in these 2 hours.
Right.
And the structure, I'm sure there's probably since COVID a desire for structure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And even amongst the students.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I need some motivation. I need to be told to be somewhere.
Yeah, that was not the way to do things. It was really rough doing it that way.
Like my own personal observation, watching my kids who were in elementary and middle school at the time kind of come back from that. And today I look at kind of where they are as a general comment is I like structure. I like having things to do. I want to go to school. I want to engage. I know that's like an overgeneralization, but I think I agree with you that there was a need and hunger for that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do want to make sure, as we're running up on time here, you did bring some stats.
Yeah, I did bring some stats.
I want to make sure we highlight those.
Okay.
I think probably the most valuable thing for people to hear is what these are going to be.
Am I running like a live fact check here? Like this is some sort of presidential debate or something?
I like the sounds of that.
Just write them down. We'll check them. We'll check them later.
I'm just giving you.
I have my TA doing these facts. He's really good.
Another option for us.
Leadership, right? And these did come off the U.S. Bureau of Labor website.
Okay. Yeah.
So this one blew my brain out of my head. Okay, so of high school seniors in the United States, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor, 42% go to a four-year college. Well, 42%.
That feels true-ish, yeah.
Of that 42%, 60% graduate. A little over half.
Yeah.
Get this one. Of the 60% that graduate, 27% work in the field of their degree. So if we just look at the numbers, 100 kids, just a sample.
Yeah.
42 go to a 4-year college. 25 graduate. 7 get a job in their field where their degree is. That's like, so I have this thing with college and exploiting the most vulnerable age level population financially that is in our country, 18-year-olds.
Wait. Are you saying they're not great decision makers sometimes?
Everybody wants to go to college.
Yeah.
If you go through the hallways of any public school, you ask,
Yeah.
everybody's going to college.
Yeah.
That is, we talk about change. That is finally starting to change. Like, it's okay to say, I want to be a carpenter. I want to be an electrician. I don't know what it is at some of our other schools.
Yeah.
But at Roseville Area High School, that skill, it's like I can see skill becoming currency. And I don't want to go down the AI wormhole.
We can skip that one.
That's
But
the next one.
I mean, I am just like, don't stick your head in the sand. Like let's make informed aware. Let's be aware of what's going on with AI, because if you look at what college prepares you for employment, how many of those jobs are going to be done by AI in the future? And so, like, I think, like, money, wealth, that's status right now. I could see in 10 years, your skill is your status. What can you do?
Yeah.
Because AI does all the thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm not making this up. They say in 4 years, AI is going to be able to think on the same level of a human brain with decision making. 4 short years. So AI can't turn a wrench.
Yeah.
It's not going to turn on the table saw. So it's like it's not hard to figure out what, where there's going to be jobs 10 years from now. And if you're a 16-year-old, 10 years from now, that's a lifetime. Yeah. It's like when I'm 26, it's like, and I have to tell them, 10 years is nothing.
Yeah.
You're going to be 26.
You have that different perspective.
Yeah. And you set yourself up for what you're going to be doing in 10 years, not in 1 or 2 or 4 or 5, think 10 or 20.
Go ahead.
So, you talk about those kids making that gigantic financial decision to go to college.
Yeah.
Some of them don't finish. The ones that do end up in like different sort of careers and paths than they ever intended to.
Yeah.
So in, 2 sentences or less, what do you want to do about it? How do you want to react to that?
Opportunity. Just give people the opportunity to be able to choose something else, so that you don't feel like you have to go to a 4-year if you don't want to. And I am not bashing 4-year colleges. I have a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
I have my master's degree. I have credits beyond my master's degree. I'm still going to Colorado State taking credits now. So if college is your thing, and it's a good decision based on your finances and your future,
Get after it.
let's do it.
Yeah.
But there are other options now.
Awesome. Yeah, we had a guest on earlier that said, like, we got to start focusing on what people are good at. If you are good at turning a wrench, find a way to make that career out of that.
Absolutely.
Let's get you pounding some nails.
Ditches need to be dug too.
Yeah.
And
Pretty good with the shovel.
There's learning that goes into that about, I want to work this hard. I love this. I love being outside. Or this is a lot of work. I don't really want to do this. I'm going to apply myself somewhere else.
Yeah. So one of the classes that we didn't even talk about, my trades class. That's another class that I teach. Yeah. I teach turning and carving too. Yeah. It's fun. I don't know if you didn't take that one.
No.
It's more of a whimsical. It's more of a whimsical class.
Yeah, but I was a real gritty guy there.
It's the trades class. That's why I say I have faith in the next generation. Those kids want to work.
Yeah.
And, I kind of read them the riot act, like, we're going to go outside if it's raining, so you bring rain gear. Yeah. So you're not wet for the rest of the school day. They do.
Yeah.
So, and they're chomping at the bit. I'm like on the reins, holding them back when they just want to work.
You got any other stats you want to throw at us?
So let's see here. This one I thought was interesting. So Are you going to fact check me on those?
Oh yeah. This is all going to come out after the
If we
episode.
don't, somebody in the comments.
I am not a mathematician.
Yeah.
Out of 100 kids that go to a 4-year, 16 graduate infield, or 16 get a job infield out of the 100 that go.
Yeah.
It's wild to me.
Yeah.
That you'd spend that much money and not get a job in what you went to get trained in.
Yeah, I had the same sort of thing coming out of high school. It was got to go to college. I started with a math degree. I'm not a mathematician, but I happen to really enjoy math, and it was good, clean fun. But man, I couldn't see myself actually being a high school math teacher. And I spent a lot of time and a lot of money kind of stumbling through that. And I left without a degree. And then I fell back into the construction industry, found my passion, really enjoyed that. So then when I went back to get a construction management degree, it was A's, it was easy, and I was so motivated and driven to do it. But I had to find that first.
See, like that story, my students would benefit from hearing that story because they all have this vision of it being a straight line, the path, when it's like, it's never a straight line. It's rarely a straight line. You know, it's like
12 years to get a 4-year degree.
Exactly.
Some might say I'm special. I'm not sure which way.
Well, I got one more stat for you.
Let it rip.
The 4-year college degree now for 60% of kids is a 6-year degree because of change of major, change of school, just not finding your groove.
Grad classes.
So
Sure.
I mean, 4 years, 6 years, and then those 2 extra years add in more money.
Yeah, it didn't get cheaper.
Yeah, so like the gap year, I remember when the gap year used to be like a curse word. I don't think
Coming out of high school.
Yeah, I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to get a job and work before I make my decision. I used to think like, don't do that. But now I'm like, I think it's a really good idea to take a gap year because as a high school senior graduating, have you worked a 40-hour work week? Do we know what that feels like?
No,
they
a
don't.
whole lot better than a 40-hour work week.
Yeah, and they hate school, so it's like, but they can't really figure that one out. So I think the gap year, I think it's changed.
Yeah.
At least for me, my opinion of it has changed a lot.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
I used to talk kids out of it, like, don't do that, you're wasting a year. But I think things are different now.
Yeah. And kudos to you for being willing to change your mind and not, no, I said this before, it's gospel to me. Like, I really honestly applaud you as an educator, the influence that you have on so many young folks to change your mind. I love that.
Cool.
Well, I want to end it with, you have a story about a student that you told Ben and Travis on the previous call we had.
Okay, yeah, I've got a great story, and I sometimes get emotional when I tell this one. So I hope I don't.
I think it's a good one to end on because we haven't heard it.
Okay. I'll try not to choke up.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'll cry with you.
Okay.
I'm a crier.
He's going to fact check you and cry with you.
Yeah.
So I had a student, his name, we'll call him A, and that was his name, A. So he moved to the United States when he was like, I think 14 years old, and he's a refugee. And I talked to him about the American dream, and I said, "Hey, what's your American dream? It's happening. I can't even bring it up."
Okay, man. We'll get there.
And he said, "Mr. Davies, when I was in the refugee camp, I got 1 apple a day." And he said, "My American dream, when I get to the United States, I'm going to eat 6 apples every day." And that was his American dream. Can I tell you what he's doing now?
Yeah.
Boom, he's a union carpenter. And, he's the first generation of his family to have medical insurance. He's got a pension. I'm driving to work on 35, and I'm driving, and I look over, and it's him. And he's driving his car.
He's
And he didn't
commuting
have
on his way to work.
He didn't have a driver's license. He had a hard time getting to the JTC because nobody in his family could drop him off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, roll down your window. We're driving down it, and I'm like, is that your car? He's like, Mr. Davies, I got my own car. And I'm like, way to go. And then we went our separate ways. But that story, I mean, can you imagine how life-changing? Union carpenter now?
Yeah. Your one thought was just get a couple more apples
Exactly.
in a day.
And now he's probably making more than I am.
I think that's so great to hear some of those success stories, some of those inspirational stories about, You think you got it rough? Let me tell you about this kid I used to know.
Yeah.
And that was his dream. And like the empowerment that kid feel. Think about what his children might experience.
For sure.
Right. And all the people that he's influencing and touching on his job sites and throughout the next, 35 years of his career. Holy crap, is that cool?
Yeah, amazing. He was super excited because he was looking forward to taking care of his mom and his dad and his brothers and sisters.
And now he can.
And now we can. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you. I mean, one, for sharing that story.
You bet.
Two, for coming in and doing this. I think the message is very clear. There are other opportunities out there.
Absolutely.
And one, we appreciate just you as a person, what you're doing at Roseville High School, but really, I think for the greater good of students, sharing this message is going to be really helpful, I think so.
Awesome. I'd be happy to, if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to, if someone wants to email me, I can point them in the right direction. That'd be no problem. So thanks for having me. Really, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff. Thanks. Man.